Looking for trusted vehicle protection? American Guardian Warranty Services has you covered. Since 1998, we've delivered top-tier coverage, award-winning support, and industry-leading training to keep your business moving forward. Every way forward.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Friday, July 11th, 2025. I'm Jake Neer in Detroit, in for Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, despite discounts, EVs continue their slump in May. New vehicle inventory declines in June, and Nissan considers supplying vehicles to Honda in the US. Plus, AI is handling more and more service phone calls at dealerships. Pied Piper CEO Fran O'Hagan joins the show to talk about how well the technology is doing compared to humans.
One customer out of 10, there's a problem. And when there is a problem, it's a big problem.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
New electric vehicle registrations fell almost 6% in May from a year earlier. That's despite factory discounts and tax incentives that brought prices close to parity with gasoline models. It's the second straight monthly decline. The 99,000 EVs registered in May represented 7.1% of the U.S. light vehicle market for the month. That's down from 7.5% in May 2024. The data is the latest from S&P Global Mobility. EV leader Tesla saw U.S. registrations fall 12% in May. In related bad news for Tesla, the company's registrations in Canada plummeted 67% during the first half of the year.
Meanwhile, this year has been good for gas-thirsty engines so far. The first half of 2025 saw double-digit growth in U.S. pickup sales, and some shuffling in the rankings of the companies that make them. Toyota sold more pickups than Stellantis from January through June. It saw an 89% gain for its midsize Tacoma. And Ford is on pace to sell more pickups than arch-rival General Motors in a calendar year for the first time since 2019. Overall, pickup sales jumped 12% in the first half.
New car inventory in the U.S. declined in June by nearly 140,000 vehicles. Days supply remained at around 2 months. Inventory fell from 2.79 million vehicles the previous month to 2.65 million to start July. That's according to LotLinks, which estimated supply ticked down to 65 days from 66 days in May. A year earlier, new vehicle inventory was 2.85 million, representing a 71-day supply.
And Nissan is reportedly in talks to supply cars to Honda in the U.S. That's according to the Nikkei newspaper, which says the move would bring new life for an underutilized Nissan plant in Canton, Mississippi. Nissan's talks to merge with Honda to form the world's third largest automaker fell apart earlier this year. The two companies said they'd keep up an agreement to work together in areas such as electric vehicles. In a statement on Friday, Nissan said it had no additional updates, although it continued to work on projects with Honda. It said it would not comment on speculation. Honda officials were not immediately available for comment. And those are today's headlines. Coming up, Pied Piper CEO Fran O'Hagan joins the show to talk about the company's latest investigation into how top dealership groups handle service appointment calls. That's next on Daily Drive.
Daily Drive listeners like you have access to the lowest price for Automotive News Congress 2025 on September 11th.
The event is where the industry's biggest players tackle its toughest challenges. Congress attendees don't just follow the industry, they lead it.
This year's featured speakers include Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Yusin Chung and General Motors CEO Mary Barra.
We are investing in America. We're creating jobs. That's creating IP in this country. And I think, the United States needs to lead in key technologies.
Join us to gain the insights and connections needed to steer your business through massive change.
To get the lowest price for the event, go to autonews.com/events, select Auto News Congress, and type in the discount code Daily Drive, one word, all caps. We'll see you in September in Detroit.
When it comes to vehicle protection, American Guardian Warranty Services has you covered. Since 1998, AGWS has been a trusted leader in F&I solutions, offering top-tier protection plans for autos, RVs, power sports, marine, and more, all backed by A-rated insurance carriers for reliable coverage you can count on. But we don't just offer protection, we deliver results. With award-winning marketing materials, expert dealer training through AGWS University, and exceptional customer service, we are committed to helping your business grow while keeping your customers protected. Join thousands of satisfied dealers and agents who trust AGWS for comprehensive coverage and unmatched support. Visit agws.com or call 800-579-2233 today to keep your business moving forward. Every way forward.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Jake Neer with Kellen Walker. Dealership training and consulting firm Pied Piper recently conducted its annual study of how well the top dealership groups handled customer telephone calls for a service appointment. The study also included how independent repair facilities compared with franchise dealerships and the effectiveness of artificial intelligence in handling customer calls. Pied Piper's CEO, Fran O'Hagan, spoke with Automotive News senior editor Dan Shine about the interesting findings from the study.
Fran, great to have you back on the Fixed Ops Friday edition of Daily Drive.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we want to talk about the service telephone effectiveness study that you guys do every year. This year, kind of interesting. You kind of brought AI into the mix a little bit and also compared franchise dealerships with some independents. So a lot to unwind here. Let's start with what the service telephone effectiveness study is about, how you kind of go about judging these top dealership groups on how well they handle service calls.
Sure. So, we've all been focused on customer satisfaction, service customer satisfaction, but there's this blind spot, which is, hey, what happens when customers call to schedule service? And they still do that, by the way, 70 to 80% of the time, as opposed to scheduling online.
Right.
And what we've learned at Pied Piper is the behaviors that are obvious to the general managers, they do a good job of managing those behaviors. But the behaviors that are invisible, it's kind of hard to manage what you have no idea what's happening. And that fits perfectly for customers calling to schedule service. So what we have done is we have called every one of the dealership locations for the top 26 largest dealer groups as if we're a customer trying to schedule service.
Okay. And so I think the last couple of years, Napleton was kind of the winner with the best scores. This year, they were supplanted by Group 1.
So Napleton finished first for web response.
Web response. I'm sorry. You're right.
But for service telephone, Group 1 was actually first 2 years ago, and they came back and reclaimed their crown this year.
And what do they do well that kind of earned them that top spot?
I would tell you it is the absence of failures. I would tell you that they, first of all, they handle most of their business through BDCs, and their BDC operations work very well at avoiding problems.
What you kind of call mission failures.
That's it. You got it.
And they also this year brought AI into the mix, which I think is interesting. There's, I think a lot of dealership groups, a lot of service and parts folks are figuring out, like, how can I incorporate this? And some just don't know how, but I think the most obvious one is handling incoming calls. And I think a lot of AI, platforms can handle the call. I'm going to set an appointment. I can get my oil changed. I've got a F-150 and then they'll say, when do you want to come in? And that kind of thing. How did AI stack up against the human-led BDC?
So it's fascinating. I would tell you that when AI is given the right opportunity, it works perfectly. And the average AI score, our score for STE is 0 to 100. It means just what you think it would mean. And the average AI score, when it worked perfectly, was a 72, which is about the same as one of the best performing dealer groups. But the challenge is that sometimes the AI is thrown for a loop. Sometimes the customer calls, yes, I'd like scheduled maintenance, but I have a recall. Now, how long should I plan on staying? Do I need a service loaner? And what we discovered was 56% of the time when the AI couldn't handle it, it was a failure. There was no human available to step in and handle the problem.
Okay, so if I'm an agent,
That's
trying to get there's no agent there. There's
That's
no
it.
service advisor. They're busy or whatever it might be, and so they call us just kind of dropped and lost.
True.
Okay, and when they are successful, we're talking about from start to finish that they handle the call, they set an appointment with a customer, time, date is all set. That's kind of like the top performing then.
That's exactly right. And our malady, our problem with our call for all of these industry study measurements was a check engine light. And we found that the AI handled it 91% of the time. But the 9% of the time, so figure one customer out of 10, there's a problem. And when there is a problem, it's a big problem.
Yeah. And were you able to measure when AI was able to successfully hand off to someone, either the BDC or a service advisor, how the rest of that call went?
Yes, that's a great question, because when it was handed over to a human, the human score was a 50. So it wasn't a great experience.
Is there a reason, do you think, why that happens? Or is it just the advisor or the BDC agent is trying to play catch up on like what was already covered by the AI interaction?
So our expectation is it's just staffing. That as a dealership general manager, it's hard to get perfect. Hey, how many humans are we going to need if we're also using AI?
Got it. And also interestingly, you compared a few of the top independent national chains, a Meineke, Pep Boys, Firestone, and kind of how they compared with franchise dealerships when it, again, comes time to handle someone calling in for a service appointment. How do the independents kind of stack up with franchise dealerships?
Well, you know what got us down that path? If you talk to senior executives at these dealer groups, that is what they're focused on. They do not want to lose any of their 3, 4, 5-year-old customers, car customers, to the independents, because they never see them again then.
Right. Yeah.
So what we found, the dealers scored better overall. The average score of the dealer group dealerships was better than the independents by a small margin, but there were some specific behaviors. We found that the independents were twice as likely to quote a price. And bear in mind, we're calling about check engine lights,
right.
So it'd be diagnostic work.
Yeah.
And also, if we measured days out until you could come in for an appointment, the independents were at 1 day compared to 4 days average for the dealer groups.
At the dealership. Yeah. Yes. I think, there is this perception that dealerships are more expensive than independents. And so then people defect once that warranty is up, they defect than independent. And so that the challenge is for dealerships to keep them, in the fold, so to speak, or, and if they do defect, to somehow pull them back in, and being able to handle the service call, a telephone call, is pretty important.
That's the first step.
Yeah. And I'll be curious for next time when, in a year from now, how AI improves, because I just think that they're always learning, right? And so that you would expect to have even better numbers next year.
We will definitely have better numbers next year. And also we will be measuring online service scheduling. So both of those, what happens, we'll get better information about what happens when an AI handles it, and also what happens when you schedule online.
Interesting. Look forward to that conversation when that happens. Fran, thanks again for your time.
Hey, my pleasure.
Fran O'Hagan is CEO of Pied Piper. He spoke with our own Dan Shine. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Jake Neer, in for Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to automotive news journalists Lawrence Iliff, Nick Bunkley, and Larry Valquette for their reporting for today's podcast. We also had reporting from David Kennedy of our sibling publication, Automotive News Canada. You can get the latest news on service and parts, EV registrations, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
Come back over the weekend for a look at how Toyota's giant Kentucky plant is close to the industry's dream of building on demand.
I've been touring plants for a long time, Cal. It's the coolest thing I've ever watched.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.